We are so thrilled to host this event tonight. My name is Helena. I am the owner of the Next Chapter Book, so we welcome you. We are very cozy here. Thank God, because it's cold out there. Keeping each other warm. There are refreshments. We welcome you to dig in because the family doesn't want to have to take them all home again. So please help yourself. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable. We have plenty of seats here, plus we have more chairs that we can bring out. So get comfortable. There is a restroom around this corner to the right-hand side. If you go back there, on the other side of this bookcase is a restroom. If anybody should need one. And what other interesting facts? I guess that's it. So I'm going to kick it off to Maura, who approached me about a month ago, a little over a month ago, and said, "Hey, my dad wrote a book. We would love to host an event and get the word out." So we are so thrilled that you did, Maura. This is amazing, and the community is thrilled to welcome you both. So congratulations, and here we go.
Thank you so much, Helena. Thank you all for coming out, and this is a clear note that I am the favorite child. But thank you so much for coming out. This event obviously has more special meaning since the author we're celebrating is my dad. I've heard his stories my whole life, but I didn't even expect him to decide at 73 that walking 500 miles across Spain on purpose was the logical next chapter. And a funny thing happened walking lost on the Camino de Santiago. He shares a journey that's full of humor, heart, and the kind of moments that make you laugh one minute and think deeply the next. I'm incredibly proud of him, and I'm thrilled to share his story with you tonight. Please join me in welcoming Gary Tutty. Yeah, you can. Yeah, got to get it real close. Okay, so I'm going to kick off with a couple questions first, so you can start reading from your book a little bit. So the first question is, what do you hope the reader takes away from this book?
Well, I think that number one, as I look around the room, there are people here that have walked the Camino that I know, and some who've walked it multiple times. And the important thing for me, the message is I was a rookie and I walked it one time. And so my goal was that when I wrote this book, I wanted it to be something that if a person read it and hasn't gone on the Camino, that they might put themselves in my shoes, because I didn't leave until I was 73, and now that I'm 76, it reminds you that if you're going to walk it, why not now? Because if not now, when? Because you don't know what life is going to bring you. But I really want it to be a book about others, which is, I guess, a little weird. But for instance, I'll read the first paragraph of the book. I originally started by saying I left on my mother's birthday. And I originally said, on April 11th, 2020, I left for the Camino, blah, blah, blah. And then on a certain date in May, I ended up in Santiago de Compostela. But then I changed it because I did want it to be a book not about me. And so I changed it to, when was the last time you walked 500 miles? If you want to get an idea of just how far that is, if you walk from Boston to Buffalo, you would need to walk another 45 miles to reach 500. If you wanted instead to walk those 500 miles from New York City to Washington, D.C., you could, but you would need to walk back to New York City, and you would still be 45 miles short of the length of the Camino Frances, the French way, the most popular route of the Camino de Santiago. I think it's fair to say that if you are going to walk that distance, you would want to have a very good reason and a great pair of hiking shoes. Mm-hmm. I went back and I didn't count the U's, but there are a lot of U's in that first paragraph. And I hope that's the thing that the reader gets out of it.
I can appreciate that. Of course, that's very much you. So talking about going 500 miles, I want to know, what was the hardest day on your trip? And honestly, what did that teach you about resilience?
Well, I think it didn't take long to get the hardest day because the first hardest day was day one. I had heard about it. I had heard that you could take an alternate route, but that's not me. It's like I didn't even know though you could leave from Saria. I have to admit that. When I first heard about the Camino, I watched the way. I watched the way. So I thought you had to walk 500 miles. But it worked out. I would say day one, and day one because as I was walking, I still probably had a little jet lag. I had been in the town for a day, and I started in the morning, and I thought 8 o'clock was good enough. Then I got to Orasan, which is only maybe 5 miles up the mountain, and you are going up a mountain, so that even that first 5 miles is hard. So I decided, you know what, I should stop. There was a place there where you could get something to eat and drink. And so I thought, you know what, I better get some water or I better get something. So I did get a sandwich, and a nice couple from California uh, they asked me to sit with them. So I was sitting there, we were talking, and they were drinking wine and beer. Now it's maybe 10:30, 11:30 in the morning. I'm thinking, wow, this Camino that's pretty good. It's like Quincy. No. So anyway, we're sitting there eating, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, you know what? It's like 12:30. Nobody seems to be moving. And so I finally said to the couple, I said, aren't people going to start going again? And she said, oh no, all of us are staying. We stay here in Orasan in this bed and breakfast or whatever, the albergue. So I thought, I'm in trouble because I had to get to Roncesvalles, which meant I had to go the rest of the mountain and then come back down. And it was really difficult. And I will say I was by myself because nobody else left. And as I went, more asked about resilience, I think I learned about it. You know how the Patriots tomorrow have to play in Denver?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I went through because I trained right here in New England. And I'm telling you, the air gets thinner and thinner. And by the time I hit the top, and I kept stopping, I'd take 5 steps and stop, and then I'd take 10 steps and say, I better take 8 steps. I just couldn't catch my breath. I don't mean that literally, but I did stop. Well, 2 things that happened. Can I tell my first story? I don't think that was what we had planned, but Moore had asked me, like, what's the funniest thing that happened to you? Well, it happened on the first day. There were a couple of things. But as the elevation rose, while it was harder to breathe, being out of shape seemed to be the bigger culprit. There was no traffic. I began to stop every few minutes in the road to rest for a moment. At one point during one of those stops, I decided to step off the path and look at the scenery for a few moments. It was breathtaking, and the scenery was excellent too. I worried that even if I could get my backpack off, I would not have the strength to put it back on. So as I slowly bent down to try and sit, I could feel the weight of the pack pulling me to the ground. I was quickly lying on my back over the backpack. It was not too uncomfortable, so I decided to rest on it. Within a minute, I was taking an unplanned nap. A short time later, I felt a nudge on my shoulder. Looking straight up from the ground, I saw the face of a young woman, maybe in her mid-20s, looking down on me. I recognized her as the pilgrim from Milan, Italy, I had met earlier in the day. She was taking pictures of the different birds for her boyfriend, who was an ornithologist. She'd be ahead of me, then behind me, then ahead of me, then behind me again. She looked worried. She said, are you okay? And she seemed really concerned. So as I looked up, I said, oh my God, you thought I was dead. And she didn't laugh or smile. I apologized and moved on. So to me, there was another day, Osabriero, if I'm saying that right. That was like a week to go. That was brutal too. But it really can't compare to the first day. When I got to the top, this Italian girl said to me, goes, you better hurry because getting to the top is hard, but going down can be as hard. No way. It was. And I was in the forest at 10 o'clock at night, pitch dark. I had fallen down in the weeds, and I really thought, like, this is nuts. But when I was at the top, out of breath, the Irish prayer, I don't know if you're familiar with the Irish prayer, came to mind, and it's, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be ever at your back. I'm sorry about my hand shaking, but it's not that I'm nervous. May the wind be ever at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall softly upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Now, on the way up, every time you'd get to a crest, you'd look and think, finally. And then you'd look and find out you go down and then you go up again. And that happened probably 20, 25 times. So I decided I was going to write my own Camino prayer. And this is how that went. May the road rise to meet you, and rise to meet you, and rise to meet you. If the wind is ever at your back, you're probably walking in the wrong direction. May the sun shine warm upon the left side of your face and your left hand, and the back of your neck and calves, and not cause you a severe sunburn. May the rains fall softly upon your head, but not on or in your shoes. And until we meet again, may God hold your backpack in the palm of his hand and ask you from above, what the hell were you thinking? So I was trying to find some humor, and but I survived. And I won't get into Oso Briero, but I'll say day one had to be the toughest. And I will say that the only thing about Oso Briero was I was very I felt very resilient. I am not going to stop. I said to myself, I will not stop no matter what. And that's easy to do. It's like when you say I'm going to lose weight, and it's great until you get hungry the first time. Same thing with here. After you have your first tough day, you think, wow, this really is a challenge. And when I got to Oso Briero, very tough day, muddy. The rocks were slippery going up the hill. I thought my day was over, and someone informed me I had another hour or two to walk. But I felt not that bad. After the day, I thought, you know what? It's not the resilience, but the fact that I seem to have more resilience towards the end.
That's amazing. I knew when I asked the question, what was the hardest? We could be sitting here for probably 3 hours talking about that. But I want to make sure we have time. So if anybody in the crowd has any questions, if they want to raise their hand and ask a question, I'll just go around. And we are actually on YouTube Live, so I'm just going to repeat the question so people online can hear too. So, yep, go ahead.
So did you actually start on the French side and go over the Pyrenees?
I did.
So what she
Yes.
asked was, did you start on the French side and go through the Pyrenees?
I did.
This easy. Oh, did you stay in hostels or in the pension?
No, I stayed in small rooms, and that's the other thing. When they asked me, like, what would you do differently? The one thing I would do is I'd let a company set it up for me. Because what I was doing is I was staying in places by myself. So you had your own room, you had your own bathroom, you had your own shower. And then I would go to the grocery store and get food. So I wasn't staying in. And that's one of the things I missed out on. I wish I had done more of that. But being 73, albergues just didn't appeal to me. I thought, no, I really need to have my own place, which I did. And it worked out okay. But the problem is that every day I had to go on booking.com as I was walking. And that became difficult because a lot of places had no reception. And I had to get a place, and everybody would say, don't book a place before you go. Don't book it because you don't know how far you're going to go. And then all of a sudden it'd be noontime, and you'd realize I better book a place because one thing people were finding out was that some of the albergues had closed, and some of them never survived. They closed because it was too early in the year, but some didn't survive COVID, and so they were being locked out. And so I was lucky. I did have a room, but a few times I had to go outside the village in order to find a place to sleep.
Any more?
What time of the year did you go? Excuse me.
What time-
April. I'm sorry, Mar.
You're such a bad listener.
I-
He asked, when did you start your travels? When did you go?
I started April 11th. I left. First of all, I wanted to leave on my mother's birthday, and so I immediately made plans and didn't realize it was Easter weekend. But that worked out pretty good because I was able to get a lot of planes because Europeans, they really they take the time to celebrate Easter. So nobody was flying, and the trouble is you couldn't get a taxi or anything like that. But I would say I don't remember the last day, but it was like the middle of May.
It was middle of May.
Yeah,
was
and
middle of
then
May, yeah.
after that was over, I went to Ireland to visit a priest friend of mine. So it was like middle of April to middle of May, a little past.
Which did help too, because that made it where there are less pilgrims.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and to be able to get those places to go from day to day, to be able to adjust, I think
Yeah.
helped you out too.
Well, I
because
think
those would have
that
been filled.
yeah, and I think in one way it was good, in other ways it was bad, only because there weren't that many people walking. I didn't know you're supposed to, I mean, there's stories in here. I mean, the title of the book is Lost for a reason. And I was lost a few times because I found no yellow arrow and there weren't that many people. I think when I left, I thought, well, I'll just follow people. Excuse me, the very first day, there's a V in the road as you're leaving the village of Saint Jean. You're leaving, and there's nothing there. There's no arrow. There's no nothing. And I made a mistake of thinking that it was like it'd be a 5K run. You know, there'd be people around. It's the beginning. There was nobody. There was nobody around. So I took a chance, and then finally there was a lady with a camera, and she was going up. So I figured I had the right place. So.
Yeah, back here. Yep.
What was the best and what was the worst meal of your trek?
Ooh, he asked, what's the best and worst meal?
Okay. I think the best meal was when I was in a small place that had maybe 7 or 8 rooms. And it was the first time I got to eat with a group. The food was good. The food was very good. The guy who owned it was he was a chef. And so it was actually very good. But there was probably 20 people, and I sat with a couple from Italy. And there were people from South Carolina, a mom and her daughter who'd been on like 5 pilgrimages, not just the Camino. So it was a really interesting group. And that was one of my best dinners. A guy told me later, because that was your best dinner because you were the center of attraction. Because what they kept asking me, my first day, I'm telling my story, like my heart-wrenching story. And then I was mentioning to her about the snow. There are people there from South Carolina that the next day or day after, they hit a snowstorm. They started from Saint Jean. The sun was out. They get to the top of the mountain, and they get up like 4 feet of snow. It was soft snow, she said. So I thought, I mean, I know how to exaggerate. Son of a gun, she had on her phone. It was awful. But as soon as the storm passed, they were okay. So anyway, I would say that was my best. I'm not sure that I had it worse. I would say that most of my days I went to the grocery store, and then I would buy a lot of local food, and local wine, and I think that my meals were pretty much all the same. So I can't say that I had a bad meal. First of all, when you walk all day and you're tired, anything tastes good. I'll tell you. Yeah.
I think there's a hand up over here.
Were you a walker before this? And how did you decide to do the community?
The question was, were you a walker before this, and what made you decide to do the Camino?
Well, first of all, I was a jogger, and when I say jogger, I say wogger because it was more walk than jog. But for years, I would go on and off, but I hadn't done that in a while. And we moved to Pine Hills, so I started to walk the paths a little bit. But no, I wasn't a big walker. And I will say that one of the problems I had was I thought I was ready, and I wasn't. I really thought walking 13 to 14 miles 3 times a week, that's pretty good. But if you didn't do it with a backpack, and if you didn't walk every day, that's a great way to not to do it right before you leave, but at least give your body, see how that works, because I wasn't ready. Why did I do it?
Yeah, what sparked you to do it?
Temporary insanity. And then I don't know, I think the number one thing was we lived in Ilion, New York. One of my family's here from Ilion. And you're from Little Falls? Damn taught in Little Falls. Anyway, small world. So anyway, we left Ilion to come here because in our old age we wanted more to be able to pay our bills and take care of us. So
It's gonna get you.
yeah. So anyway, I decided that I don't know, maybe I could go, and the way came on. I'm a YouTuber, and somehow or other the way was on. And I watched it again. It was my second time. And I was touched by it as I was before. Always been a Martin Sheen fan. We Catholics stay together sometime. And I see the movie, and then we moved to Plymouth. I said, maybe later. The first day we're there, we get a newsletter on my from Pine Hills. There's a guy going to speak on going on the Camino. So I thought, maybe there is something going on here. So I got a hold of him. And I said, my family's going to Italy when you're doing this. He goes, that's okay. When you come back, I'll give you the presentation, which he did. And then I don't know what it was. I'm as I say, I must have watched 50, 60, 70 YouTubes about every aspect of the Camino. And I was sitting there usually 6, 7 o'clock at night, got some wine. I just sat down, and just as I sat down, I hit the button on the YouTube, and the guy named Jeremiah says, I just got an email from someone, and I want to read it before I start. And in it, it said, those of you who are just sitting on your couch, drinking your wine or your beer, get off the couch and commit to the Camino. So I thought, all right, that's it. That's got to be mine. And I will say that I'll talk, maybe I won't, about the spiritual reasons, but when I got there were people there for a death, a sickness. I mean, there were a divorce, a marriage, a future marriage, a past marriage, a future divorce. I mean, everybody was there. Loss of a child. People were using it. And so when people would ask me why I did it, I don't know. It was hard. It was hard for me to come up with something specific.
Go ahead.
Was there ever a point where you considered a different route? Because there are a lot.
Was there ever a point you considered a different route?
Not really, only because that was the way. When I saw that, to me, and I could see there were different ones, but I thought, you know what? If I'm going to do more, at least I should start with, the classic.
Yep, go ahead.
I've heard that some people experience 3 stages of the Camino, like the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Was that the case for you?
Yes. And in my book, first of all, I divide my book up into 3 parts: before the walk, and then after. And then I have in my chapters, not all of them, but the chapters where I'm on the Camino, I have thoughts along the way. And mostly I put those in italics because I thought if people are interested in what I'm saying, they just want to learn about the Camino, that's fine. But that became more of my spiritual part, where I was reflecting. So again, I was hurting. To me, in my own mind, I was hurting physically and spiritually. I wanted to kind of get a direction again. And so, yes, I had both. I will say the Camino offers you that. And also, when I think of the Camino, it's like the church. Am I going on too long?
No, you're great.
All
Your
right.
answer. People have questions.
All
You have
right.
answers.
So I had 2 aspects, and one was the spiritual and one was the physical. And when you're 73 years old, you know, you're used to looking forward. I mean, I was a school superintendent, but I worked in medical sales. I did a lot of different things. Now, all of a sudden, instead of looking forward, yeah, you're looking back. It's a lot nicer. Maybe not. So I wanted to look forward and I wanted to look back, both physically, you know, what kind of health was I in, but also where was I spiritually. And I mentioned Father Michael Judge. I don't know if Michael was the first responder on 9/11 to die. He was our pastor. And we had some great conversations. So on the spiritual side, I'm looking at myself, and as I'm walking, I'm thinking, man, I am lost spiritually. I'm lost because everybody else seemed to have their act together. And I know that's probably not true, but in my head, they seemed to know what they were up to. And I was struggling. So I don't know why it came into my head, but the first story that came into my head was the road to Emmaus, and it was a reading at Mass on one of the days I was traveling on the Camino, and as I thought of that, there's two disciples. I don't know if you know the story of the road to Emmaus. There's two disciples, and they're walking towards Emmaus. Christ has died, and now what? They didn't know they were kind of losing faith. So instead of staying in Jerusalem, they walk to Emmaus. And they are literally lost geographically. They're going in the wrong direction. And they're lost spiritually because they're not sure what to believe. So that Christ appears to them, but they don't know it's Christ. He doesn't show himself. He just starts talking to them. And he's talking to them and he's asking them, hey guys, what's going on? And then as they go along, he no longer talks, he listens. This is Jesus. He's listening. They get to Emmaus and he says, well, guys, I got to get going. Oh, please stay with us and have a supper with us. So they do. And as they're having the supper, they recognize Christ. They recognize who it is. So as you read that story, I heard many sermons, but Father Michael gave a sermon once, and he said, the amazing thing about that story is the fact that Christ listened. He didn't say, Jesus, guys, for God's sake, would you turn around? If you turn around, I'll walk with you. He didn't say that. He listened to them, and he went to where they were at. And when you're lost spiritually, you're hoping that could happen in your own church. But the other thing was, he listened, but he was willing to walk in the wrong direction. He didn't say, turn around and I'll walk with you. He said nothing. He listened and walked with him to Emmaus. So that was a story. It just stuck in my head. That was the spiritual side. Like, where was I? The other one was Peter and Christ. Christ says to Peter, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yeah, I love you. I love you. And he said, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, Lord, you know I love you. And finally he says to him, Peter, do you love me? And then it dawns on Peter, because Father tells the story. He says, when you hear this story, you hear love, love, and love. But those weren't the words. The words were translated to that. But when Christ asked Peter, do you love me? He uses the word agape. And that's the tough love, the true love. I love you under any circumstance. And Peter answers with, yeah, filio, I think his name. And that is kind of I'm your buddy. It's kind of a nice love, but it's your friend. It's kind of like that one heart emoji you can put into anybody and not have to be committed. So that's when he gets to the last part. Peter says, oh my God, I get it, Lord. You know I love you. And then Christ says, fine, you're going to be my CEO. So anyway, I kept thinking of that because I will admit I can be very judgmental when I hear people who are Christians. Matter of fact, I wrote another book before that, who are who are Christians who don't act like Christians. And it really, and so I get very judgmental. I'll see people and they're being nasty on TV and they're wearing a cross. I'm thinking, please put the cross away anyway, you know? And then I thought to myself, you know what? I shouldn't be judging them. I mean, they are who they are. Where am I? Where am I on the Christ love thing? Am I committed or not committed? So I have to say that if I think Maura had asked me originally, you know, did you have any, not epiphanies or whatever, but you're warned not to do that to yourself. Don't have expectations, have intentions. And so I really wasn't expecting much, but so I can't say where I'm at spiritually, except the Camino taught me to look at it from the other side. And that's a gift. That's a gift.
Right. Take one or two more.
This is a logistical question. How actually did you get to the St. John, the starting point? Did you leave from New York or Boston?
I left from Boston, and I won't go through the whole thing, but the name of the chapter is what is it?
Can you just put the microphone closer?
Sure.
Thank you.
You just asked me to put the microphone closer.
People want to hear.
The name of the chapter is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in a Bus. Yeah. I ended up going to Lisbon, and then ended up in Bilbao, and then went to I can't remember the next one, but it was a plane, a taxi, let's see, a bus, and then the train into St. John.
Did you make all your own travel arrangements?
I did. Yeah, and that's why I'd get a company the next time. It really was difficult trying to make all that work.
Helena.
My question is, how many shoes did you bring and how many did you go through?
She wants to know how many shoes did you bring and how many did you go through?
Well, that was they were asking me about the funniest thing, and I mentioned the girl who thought I was dead, which is funny now. It wasn't funny then.
It was definitely not funny.
I have another thing here where there was a guy from the Netherlands, and I don't know why I was walking along this canal, and it was just me. Then all of a sudden he came by me, and he looked down and he looked at my shoes, and he started laughing. And I'm thinking, what's so funny? Well, I have a picture of my shoes. My shoes were big, and I bought them at REI. Right?
Oh, REI.
Yeah. And I first pair of shoes I put on, they felt great. I've never had hiking shoes before, so I had those shoes. I went through just them. I have another story of guys who blew their shoes out because they were wearing different types of shoes. But this guy goes by me and he's laughing, and I'm thinking, what's so funny? He looks at me and he goes, "Oh, those look like boxes." And so I didn't understand what he was talking about, but you have to understand, I limped. I gotta say, I limped probably most of my walk. And he looked at those and he was thinking maybe it was my shoes, but I only had one. And in the end, I thought to myself, it was so nice that I was able to make that guy happy by wearing the shoes I was wearing. And in the book, I say, I think he was high on my shoes, and I think he might have been high on something else. So, but that was, I only used the one pair, and I still have them.
You still wear it?
I don't wear them. Not wearing them.
Any other last questions? You want to read one last thing?
Well, two things. If people they didn't ask, but what would I do differently? I would go through those really quickly, because my family remind me the most important part of this is the wine and beer. So I would use a travel company. I'd make more stops each day. I didn't really get to see as many people as I should have. I would leave close to dawn, not before dawn, because I didn't like walking in the dark, but I would leave closer to dawn. I think I left too late sometimes. By leaving really early, if you're ahead of time, you can be in the next village and meet more people, even if your room's not ready. I'd have more traditional meals. I really did miss that. I would train more. I mentioned that. You really need to be ready. There was one guy that said you could roll out of bed and go and be in the community. I don't believe that. I mean, I couldn't. Maybe others could. I learned more Spanish. I realized there's an app you can hold up to your face in someone's face, and I saw that a few times. And I got to say, the Spanish weren't that excited when someone puts a thing into your face. But I at least learned a few more words. I took Latin, went to a Catholic school, so I took Latin and French. I didn't really know Spanish that well, and I saw people who did. The natives really like that when you try. I would study alternative routes. There are like spiritual alternate routes, and there's other different alternate routes. And I knew they existed, but I didn't really pay attention until I got right to them. And that's stupid. That's just a dumb way of doing it, because guess which way I took every time? The shorter one. I would just take the shorter one. There were times I should have gone the other way. There were times people took the alternate route and said, hey, guess what? The mission was closed. There was a lot of that in April. I get the names of my favorite pilgrims. One thing I didn't do, I have pilgrims that I love that are because the Camino is the Camino. I mean, it's all about the Camino. And I didn't take any names, and I really wish I did. I've been lucky. There's people here. I've met people who've done the Camino and are going to do the Camino, and they're wonderful people. And I had all these other people, and I didn't take their names. They're from South Africa, a few of them from South Africa, one from Brazil, another from Italy. I mean, they're from all over, and now I don't have any way to get hold of them. Then this is a strange one. Not strange, but I would say that I would want somebody to meet me. I mean, I walked alone, but I will say that when I walked into the square and everybody's hugging and putting their poles up, I'm there by myself thinking, oh, now what do I do? I could do the thing my grandson taught me to do, air hugs. They might think I'm crazy. Or I could do real hugs and get arrested. So I decided I am not going to do either. I would think it'd be great if people met you or walked the last from Sarria in, and then you went someplace else. Even if it's just a Finisterre, which is at the end. That's a nice trip. It'd be a good way to decompress and also be able to share your story. So if I can, I'll end with this. So at the end, you go to mass, and is it Buddha Fumero, I think it's called, but it's the thurible, and it's the thing with the incense, and it swings from one end of the church to the other. It really is. It is magnificent, and it's very special. And while I was there, I was looking at people. Some you could tell were pilgrims, some were not pilgrims. And I was kind of wondering, like, what's the common spirit here? And one of the spiritual things I was working on was my church, capital C, and the church, small c. Well, it was the same thing with the Camino. There's the Camino, the small c, but there's the Camino, the capital C. And the Camino, the capital C, are the people that are here. They're the people I've met. They're the people I met there. And for some reason, the story came up right when I was in the church. And it was one, and you probably have heard the story, but it was just by coincidence. It was about a sociologist, and it was a group of kids. And I don't know what country it was, but they're not well-to-do kids. And he sends them, and he says, listen, I'm going to put a basket of fruit out, and I'm going to put it down that tree, and you guys can race, and the person who gets the fruit can have it and eat it. So he says, go. And when he says go, the kids, instead of racing, go slow, grab each other's hand, and go to the basket of fruit together. And he goes and he says, why did you do that? Aren't you hungry? Didn't you want that? And one of the kids says to him, how can one of us be happy if everyone else is sad? Ubuntu. And Ubuntu means I am because we are. And I kept thinking, wow, wouldn't that be a great way to run life? I thought that's what we should do. And at least on the Camino, that's the capital C. And finally, I'll say, when I finished, I reflected on what I had shared with the reader and recalled what a priest friend told me. He said that it's to always remember that no matter how rough things get, like life is a gift. Whether you're experiencing the good or the not so good, it's all a gift. Things were certainly rough for me at times on the Camino de Santiago. There were good days and not so good days, both physically and spiritually. But as time passes, it becomes more evident that walking the Camino de Santiago was a gift. And for me and the many pilgrims who experience it each year, it's all a gift. Buen Camino.
Buen Camino. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, especially because everybody's waiting for the snow to come. I want to thank the Next Chapter Books and More for hosting us. Thank you so much for everything you've done to make this a successful event. We have refreshments, and please, we have so much cake. Please take so much cake. We got beverages, cheese, everything. We have plenty of wine, and we have books. My dad's going to sign them. Online, you guys can go on the Next Chapter Books, the Next Chapter -books and more.com if you want to buy a book. But thank you again so much, and have a nice night.
Before we wrap up, I want to get a picture of everybody in attendance. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to have, it's hard because we're